What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyDrawProjects.com, and this is the Early Bird Artcast number 25. And this Early Bird Artcast is coming to you kind of late, but it's still technically morning, which is kind of crazy, right? So it's actually about 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I had to go to work early today. Fun. So, I had to go to work super early, and so I couldn't do the art cast. And so I figured, I don't know, I wasn't planning on it until just now. I was just like, you know what? Let me see if I could do this during lunchtime. Good afternoon. It's not afternoon yet, unless you live in the Atlantic Ocean, I guess. Or maybe the UK or something. I don't know. But here in Eastern America, it's just close. What's up, Dave? Better late than never, right? Thanks, man. What's up, Daniel Liebert? How you doing? Portugal. Okay. There you go. Maybe Portugal. It's afternoon. I don't know. I don't really know the time zone there, to be honest. So, I figured while I get my work done here, might as well do a little bit of a live stream. And it might prove difficult, but right now I'm warming up by just doing the panels. This pen, I think my pens are starting to run out. I might need to get more. So yeah, GMT 1633, all right. I'm just messing around with the settings here so I make sure I see the chat. So what are you guys up to right now? You at lunch or something, or just doing something else? It's crazy. Obviously, the news of Mr. Stan Lee passing definitely hit me right in the comic book feels and stuff. A friend, Noah, Samurai Ox, he actually posted this in Facebook. He was talking about it a little bit, and one thing he said really resonated with me, and that was, he's actually not, he said, and forgive me, dude, if I'm messing up your words, but he said something like, I'm actually not that sad. I'm actually just grateful for everything he's done in his life, and being able to kind of experience and be helped by stuff that he's done. I mean, what he's done for the comic industry, is just, it's like you can't even really measure it. It's just, he's kind of the spokesperson for comics. People who don't even know anything about comics know who Stan Lee is. Although I was surprised to see that there's definitely a lot of people who actually don't. To be famous in comics is still barely to be famous. But a lot of people know who he is, for sure. But yeah, I don't know, he's definitely been a big important part of comics for sure, obviously. So yeah, woke up to the news. Yeah, it was a very sad day. Daniel's saying he had a happy life. Yeah, and that's one thing too, is to me, it's sad when somebody dies early. It's always sad when somebody dies, of course. But you look at Stan Lee and you're like, this dude was he was still going to conventions and having fun and doing his work and stuff right up until he died. I mean, obviously he's a little less, mobile and had some difficulties with things, and he was getting to a place where it was tough. Um, but he was still there. He was still doing his thing, and he lived a full life and really did some amazing things. And you know, it's not a bad way to go out. You know, um, compared to many other people. Sadly. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously you're gonna be sad, but at the same time, it's like I think we all knew it was gonna happen at some point. Probably within our lifetimes. And it's kind of one of those things. I don't know specifically for sure how he died yet. If they like what the cause of death was. Usually, I don't know how long it usually takes to find that out for sure. So a lot of times, when it's a celebrity, they don't even tell you. Like they'll just it's like inconclusive, or I just feel like they don't want to tell you or something. It's like none of your business, maybe, is what it is. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Just interesting thing. Better to burn out than fade away. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that was sad yesterday. I'm back, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. This live stream from the phone thing sometimes has problems. Um, but yeah, I was just saying that, Stan Lee, even though there's kind of been some controversy around things, I think his contribution is still very significant. And I'm gonna actually do a video soon. I did a little piece of art last night, just a light sketch, and I'm gonna ink it and stuff and try to do a little bit of a video just on some of my thoughts. It's a video I've actually been wanting to do for a long time on Stan Lee. But I guess this is a good time to do it because it's almost like a memorial or an homage or whatever. It's kind of my way of paying respects to a guy who definitely affected my life. I mean, how to draw comics the Marvel way. Like, I got that when I was pretty young. And, let's see, how old was I wonder? I know I wanted it, like, right as soon as I saw it. And I remember I was definitely pretty young. I think I was still in elementary school. And I don't know, I feel like it took a while before I was able to get a hold of it. But once I did, like, I don't think about it too often. Like, I kind of take it for granted, I guess. But I mean, while there was a lot I didn't get, like when it got into the kind of second, third, or whatever of how to make comics the Marvel way. There was a lot of that stuff that kind of went over my head, and even some of the tools and stuff went over my head because I didn't have access to any of that stuff as a kid. And I wasn't probably going to be making full pages yet. I'm still trying to learn how to draw something better than a smiley face, at that point. But that it did affect me, and I learned just like stuff about proportion, and there was like that whole like kind of propaganda, like, well, this is how a Marvel artist does it. He does it, other companies might do it this way, but a Marvel artist kind of does it in a more dynamic way, in a more exciting way, and blah blah blah. Like, yes, it's kind of like that was like the propaganda, but at the same time it was good advice. Like, yes, like when you draw your character, try to push it as far as you can. especially if you're doing action-oriented type of comics, Um, and so, I don't know. I learned a lot. I learned about like all the basic art stuff. Like that was the first time I learned about, building a character from shapes. And it's such a basic, simple lesson that every artist knows, so much that you take it for granted. But how to make comics the Marvel way is the way I learned it. That's where I got all that, the basic stuff that I needed. I learned the first time I ever heard about gesture and stuff was on in that. And a lot of that advice I kind of took, but I also, I think I was a little too young to really really apply it. Like I was kind of, you know, I just wanted to draw cool stuff, so I drew how I wanted to draw. But I did learn some stuff, like just the fact of shaping any object or any human out with starting with shapes is a huge deal. Yeah, good propaganda, right, Daniel? He had his hands in all of our lives at some point. Yeah, it's crazy, right? What's up, Luke? How you doing? Um, so, so yeah, I mean, I really, I'm a huge fan of Jack Kirby, and I kind of want to be like, Jack Kirby created this stuff, and Stan Lee wasn't the real creator, blah, blah, blah. Because there's some truth to that. There's been times where I've kind of been more on that page, but as I've grown, I've realized that, Stan Lee really did make a very important contribution, and a more mature look is, and something that I think was a little bit more close to reality is, Stan Lee made books by himself. Jack Kirby made books by himself, or maybe I should say Stan Lee made, wrote other books with other artists. Jack Kirby created whole books, writing and art by himself. Steve Ditko did as well. Never did they really. I mean, Jack Kirby had a huge, awesome career way before him and Stan Lee started, Fantastic Four. But never did they really make the impact that they ever made, except for when they were collaborating together. There was something about that beginning time when they were really, taking those chances at Marvel and creating Fantastic Four and X-Men and all that stuff. I mean, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon had already created Captain Marvel, but all that kind of stuff, like Thor and all the stuff that the Hulk, all that stuff. There was some kind of magic that was going on then, and they both contributed to that magic. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to hit these settings a little bit. Learn from an old French drawing encyclopedia that has 500 pages, but I was too young to gain from it. Gotcha. Kirby may have created, but Stan paved the way for all of them. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's some more points that I probably won't bring up just yet, but because I want to say it in my video, but the culture that Stan Lee created is hugely important as well. That's like a huge part of his legacy, maybe even more than any of the characters he created in some ways. um you know and yeah, again, it was like propaganda. It was Marvel propaganda, but I like how you said it was good propaganda. um Propaganda isn't always a bad thing. um so yeah, I don't know. I don't mind propaganda as long as it's showing you something cool. And once again, I learned, a lot of my first initial drawing skills from How to Make Comics the Marvel Way. So yeah, I'm just kind of repeating myself at this point, but Kirby, the king of pop culture, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, how much that stuff is still around and impacting things. And apparently, I guess he still has some cameos that have been recorded for a few of the movies, or that's at least what some of the speculation is. So that's kind of cool that we'll still be seeing him, a few times in the movies. So that's awesome. So yeah, I don't know. Just thinking a little bit about that. Let's see what else. I didn't really have a specific topic. I didn't even really know I was gonna talk about good old Stan Lee, but I guess that makes sense, So yeah, he left a pretty awesome legacy, and it's rare to have somebody leave a legacy that is, for the most part, untarnished. These days it just seems or I guess I'm grateful that it hasn't really been tarnished too much, like, because you just hear so much, and I mean, especially with like Bill Cosby and stuff, and I don't want to get into that, but like things like that, and it's just like, oh man, you hate to hear stuff like that. And luckily we've never, as far as I know, I don't think we've ever really heard much about anything too crazy from him. So he left a good legacy. He kept going. Everybody, he's got a good thing going, and we're gonna miss him, for sure. I think that's pretty unanimous for the most part. So in the kind of in the spirit of Stan Lee, and other creators like Jack Kirby, that's kind of what I'm doing here with my comic, and I'm not Stan Lee or Jack Kirby, obviously, but I definitely am super inspired by the Marvel method, and what I'm doing with my comic is basically my version of that. I'm trying to do one story every month, and I think they're getting bigger and more sophisticated each month. This is the third month, and it's going strong so far. So hopefully I can keep up the pace, and again, these guys, I'm standing on the shoulders of greats, trying to do something in my own way, and those greats, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, again, very inspired by them. Yeah, what's up, Mutt Man? Rest in peace, Stan. Funny, I still remember my old. Ah, man, the chats are weird. They're not. They go away, and there's probably a way to like scroll. Okay, here we go. Okay. Funny, I still remember my old brother coming home for the weekend from the paratroopers and giving a Brazilian Hulk magazine. I was about 8 or 9 years old. Oh wow, that's cool. And that hooked me on Marvel and Star Wars, since it was 80-page magazine with Hulk, Rom, and Star Wars. That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. And you know what? And if you guys are familiar with alternate comics and Peter Simeti and stuff, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I'm a big fan, and I'd love to be part of the group of people creating over there someday. And to me, I've said this before, and I'm gonna keep saying it. To me, Peter Simeti is nobody could take Stanley's footprints. Everybody's got their own mark to make in the world, but to me, Peter Simeti is kind of like that. He reminds me of Stan Lee in that he's out there promoting comics for comics' sake, and he's just a great advocate for comics, and what he's doing with his comics. And like I'm so excited to have had the chance and had the ability to have a bunch of kid-friendly comics that I got for super cheap. I didn't even read them yet, but my nephew was over one day, and I wanted to get him into comics, and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't read these yet, but whatever, like, I'm just gonna give him like all these comics. So I gave him a nice little stack of comics from Alterna, and ever since then he's kept them in his bag. He's like 8 years old, I think, actually. He's kept them in his bag at school and stuff that he brings to school, and he just reads a little bit of them every day, and he's like he loves them. He's super excited about them, and yeah, I don't know. It's like, yes, it's like I'm making a new convert to comics, and I'm gonna try to do that with other kids I come in contact with, and my other nephew as well once he gets a little bit older, and that's the way comics were back then. They were cheap enough for kids to get a hold of, and you know, they were kind of throwaway books, but at the same time they taught some lessons. A lot of people that I know now talk about how the lessons they learned from like G.I. Joe or like He-Man or like some of these comics have stuck with them and actually formed their morality. And a lot of those were like really good lessons and stuff. I heard somebody talking about, I think it was Corey Kerr, talking about how X-Men, helped him form his ideas on kind of, racial injustice and stuff like that, and being fair to people even if they're a little bit different and stuff like that. I learned the same things, from reading those comics, and those kind of lessons I wouldn't have maybe, probably went in one ear and out the other if I heard them from like an adult or something. But because, you know, I heard them from comics, I feel like I got more value, out of it. Sorry, sometimes I pause here because I'm trying to go through the chat. Uh, I lost my childhood memories for the full anesthesia I got for my heart surgery. Whoa, that's crazy. You don't have access to Alterna there, sadly. Oh, that sucks. It's worth it, but you know what you can do? You can sign up for their mailing list or their email list, and I think he gives you like a bunch of free comics, digital free comics by signing up, so you can read some of the stuff that way. Again, all of the comics aren't necessarily kid friendly either, but you're not a kid, so not anymore. Maybe a kid at heart though. Muttman, Stanley was a master promoter. Yes, his voice was comics. His voice was comics so much. Yes, Peter Simay is also a great promoter. Yes, exactly. Yep, comics and cartoon, big deal. G.I. Joe PSA taught me how to approach a strange dog. Yep. I mean, even practical stuff like that, right? I mean, some of those lessons weren't like as overt either. They were embedded into the story, and what better way to learn some really helpful things? That's funny though, like morality things, practical things, it was all there. And I guess there's stuff like that now. I don't know, like I wonder, because I know if I had kids, like I would probably be more up on like what's going on with the cartoons and stuff. um but I'm in my car right now. I'm turning the heat down. It's starting to get hot. um yeah, but I don't know if there's like lessons on some of these shows. I know, like I think about like what is it, Teen Titans Go, and I've seen some episodes, and to me, like, in some ways maybe it's not so great for the kids sometimes, but it's freaking funny as hell to me when I've seen them. But yeah, I don't know, but I don't think they have like overt messages or anything, but maybe they do. I just haven't haven't been able to tell because I've only seen like a couple of episodes. But I mean, I'm sure there's other shows out there that are like that these days. And again, comics. There's no comics out there though for kids like there used to be. Besides something like Alterna, I mean, there is a lot of comic. I shouldn't say there's not comics for kids, but the fact that Alterna offers them at such a cheap price, it makes it a lot easier to kind of share those. Like if you're gonna try to get in on, try to get your nephew or something some comics, it's a lot easier to hand over, $10 worth of comics that is like 5 or 6 comics than like, oh crap, like I could maybe get them 1 or 2 comics, for the prices that they are at comic shops generally. So I don't know. That price point is a big deal to me, at least, because I don't have a lot of money. So yeah, the chat thing on this is so weird when you're doing it on your phone. Learn in a cool way, not a lecture. Yeah, absolutely. Modern cartoons are not morality tales. Gotcha. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm suspecting for sure. And I mean, I don't really have a huge. Well, I kind of do want to make comics for kids now that I've seen the potential of what I've been able to do for my nephew. I kind of now have all of a sudden started to want to make some comics for kids. So I probably will, especially at the rate that I'm starting to make comics. If I can keep going at a really awesome rate, then I'll feel okay with like taking more time out to venture into something that's more kid friendly and stuff. Um, but I mean, this stuff is everything I do so far has been somewhat kid friendly, but there's little parts here and there. I don't mean to make them for kids generally. Um, but if I can find some good ones for kids and just share those, at least that's cool too. I kind of been doing this thing where I basically thumbnail on the actual page, and then I kind of go in and either ink over that, even as rough as it looks, or I'll do what I'm doing right now and kind of add more detailed pencils. It's taken too long though with adding the detailed pencils. Actually, I got to really get my butt moving on this comic. I haven't even gotten all the roughs done yet, but I've gotten most of them done. And then I had a page set over here. I finished this page right here. And this is page 16. I kind of hopped over to it by accident, but I think it came out pretty cool. So I'm excited. There's new characters opening up um, for part 2 of Corncob Rob, and they're fun to draw and stuff. So yeah, I'm having fun. Got to get a move on and really make this happen. I'm and then right now I'm trying to draw kind of from this top view Corncob Rob, kind of on the ground. And I'll be honest, I'm having a little bit of difficulty figuring out how to draw it. And I want it to look like there's people standing around him, so I'll do my best. I think it's starting to come through. It always looks ugly to start. Like anytime you do a drawing, like it kind of looks ugly at the start of it, and you kind of don't have confidence. Like you're like feeling bad, like it's looking like crap, and you're like, this is not going to be good. But if you just keep working it, you keep working it, keep working it, you'll get to a point where it's like, okay, this isn't too bad actually. At least that's what happens with me. So I think that's what's starting to happen here, luckily. Sometimes you just end up erasing and everything so much, and it's like, I don't want to be doing this so long. I want to get past this, panel or page or whatever. Oh, I'm kind of drawing off the page. Sorry, my bad. I'm drawing off the screen there for a minute. I wish the chat would just stay. Looks like Punk Rock Veggie. Yeah, that's what it is. Punk Rock Veggie Tales. That's what I've been actually calling it. It's funny you say that. Oh, here we go. Some more chats I missed. My dad would buy me some 50-cent Donald Duck comics when I was a kid. Yeah, that's one place you can get in the dollar bin and the quarter bins and 50-cent bins, whatever ones they have, and get some good stuff for sure. That's actually where I get a lot of my comics, because I like the old stuff anyways. But and I also go into back issues. That stuff's more interesting to me, and then indie stuff. I generally am not interested in mainstream comics that I come across. I don't know. Sometimes I am, but usually I'm kind of disappointed, so I don't really spend much time over there. But I don't have any problem, with them. I'm definitely not in the realm of like, I don't know. I'm not like probably a comic skater exactly, but at the same time, I like sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, not really my thing. So yeah. Usually it's the art that gets me though. If there's like cool art, that's what always has gotten me, when I go into a comic shop and I'm looking for stuff. And if it looks like the story might be good, like the premise, I'll jump on it. I actually got to go pick up whatever's in my pull list. I'm sure I got some stuff. Haven't been there for like a month because I haven't had much money lately. But I could at least get I subscribe to all the alternate titles, so I should have some stuff in there that I can afford to grab. There's a couple things I know I won't be able to get just yet because still tight on money. But yeah, fun. It's fun being an adult, right? Not so much sometimes. Hey, what's up, Cirque? Cirque Works. Scott, how you doing, man? He says, Glyph, Hobo Robo, Corncob Rob, you always come up with the best ideas for characters. Ah, that's too nice, man. Thank you. I buy for art first. Keep on keeping on. Thanks, Mutt Man. Yeah, that's a big compliment coming from you, Mr. Scott. Thank you. I don't know. I just have fun with it and try to new characters, and I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing that like made me excited about comics in the first place. Again, I've said it many times, but Rob Liefeld, his X-Force comic, was the thing that really got me wanting to make comics myself. And I know a lot of people don't love his stuff and whatnot, and I don't always love his stuff either, to be honest. But that just happens to be what my entry point was, and I do still like his stuff to some degree, but my tastes have also grown and matured for sure. So anyways, he created characters, and I know back then I didn't really know, but now I know that a lot of that stuff was kind of derivative, but it was exciting to me. It looked exciting, and it caused me to want to create characters. And then whenever they started this whole image thing, it was just like, that's what I'm about. Like, I want to make my own characters. I love Spider-Man and stuff like that, but I really just want to make my own characters. So, and then once I finally like warmed up to Jack Kirby, I saw that imagination, and was super inspired by that crazy imagination of his. And so I let go and just let myself make whatever crazy stuff I could come up with. And I just went with it. So I know, Scott, you've heard probably this story many times. I've said it so many times on my YouTube channel, but maybe other people haven't heard it. I think I got a pretty okay down shot of him kind of sitting. It'll probably have to do. Now I got to try to put the other characters in perspective as well, standing around him. I guess I would just put like some feet, really. And I have to kind of design all their shoes. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah, I gotta get going pretty soon, but let's see. So yeah, before I was talking about Stan Lee and stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna do a whole video actually on Mr. Stan the Man. So we'll talk more about him. But he's been a big inspiration for sure, especially like the Marvel method, and just like we were talking about, like his promotional stuff. Like you can learn a lot from that too. And I kind of want to, cause like, when he was doing it, it was really directed to the readers, and you felt like you were part of a club, and you didn't have to be a writer or an artist to really get into stuff. He made it interesting for anybody, and exciting, and it was about the stories, and a lot of times us artists and creators, we don't, we're not marketers necessarily. We just want to make cool stuff, so we don't always. And even back then, Jack Kirby like wasn't the greatest huckster. He wasn't the greatest guy at getting the word out and stuff, and he wasn't really the greatest writer really, but he had his imagination was immense. And it's just Stan Lee just had that amazing knack for kind of getting people involved and interested in things, and I love that. I love that so much. So, all right, well, I think that's going to be about it. I do have to get back to work here soon. I'm on my lunch break. This is a later version of the Early Bird Artcast. Maybe I can do this more sometimes too if I have early lunches like this. We'll see. I might even just make a whole maybe little series where it's just like the lunch cast instead of the Early Bird Artcast. I don't know. That might be cool, but I feel like that's kind of splitting things up a little bit too much. But anyways, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and chatting with me. If you want to see my comics, go to donkeyjawprojects.com/comics, and you'll be able to read some free ones there and some that you have to pay for. And if you want to read the first half of the Corncob Rob series, you can go to Facebook, and I don't know the exact URL, but I'll put the link in the description. But I have a Facebook group now, and in there is a link to download the first part of Corncob Rob. So you can download it and read it for free. I won't be putting my comics in there for free all the time. That was just like a special thing. But yeah, you have to sign up for the group, and then once you're approved, you can check that out if you want. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thank you everybody who's watching on the replay and everything too, and thank you to all my patrons. And I'm gonna get going. I hope you guys have an awesome day. All right, peace out.